D-Wash, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was a weekend.
Yeah.
Nah, not just kind of an average one.
Did you hang with Hannah?
I did. We went to the I don't know what the place is called at Liberty Station. There's a little I don't know, beer.
Yeah, I was actually
Beer
going to
bar.
go to Liberty Station at one point. I didn't.
Yesterday?
Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Your boy had a tough reaction to the vaccine.
Oh,
After all.
did you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Saturday and Sunday.
damn.
Yeah.
What was it? You want to get into it?
I mean, it was just like, yeah, it was, I guess you never really felt this way during COVID, but it kind of just felt like,
Felt like, it's
COVID,
kind of like when you get the flu shot and you feel like you have
yeah.
the flu.
It was just like, yeah, aches, headache, like just, basically not wanting to
General
get out of bed.
shittiness.
Yeah. And it was, Saturday and Sunday. It came on like Saturday. I was supposed to go there Saturday night, and it came on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not.
Is this the one where you have to get two of them?
Yeah.
Is the second one supposed to be the same as the first one? Do you know?
I had been told that the second one's supposed to be worse than the first one.
No,
and that
come
most
on.
people don't have a reaction after the first one. But my sister told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but she told me, she's not one to make stuff up, I feel like, for the most part, but she told me that she had read somewhere that if you had COVID, that your reaction to the vaccine was stronger than people that didn't have COVID. So I don't know
It's
if
such an interesting. I guess it's just the time where everybody has information,
right.
but it just seems like this whole thing, and there's just been so many different new, because we're learning about it, right?
Right.
So you're just hearing every new thing that comes out about it. It's just
Right.
funny.
All right, we don't need to go too much into my shitty weekend.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. I was actually, a little bit worried because yesterday I still wasn't feeling great. I was like, I hope I'm able to do this podcast. We missed last week. To make our listeners have to wait 2 weeks to hear us talk is just not fair.
No, I
All right,
wouldn't want to do that.
let's
to
get into
anybody.
it. Let's get right into it. Jumping off point number one.
You want me to go? Okay, so the
Yeah.
first one I had,
I'm excited. You got a couple ones.
obviously we got to talk about Musgrove. I'm gonna.
Okay, that's right. First podcast since the first San Diego Padres no-hitter by our friend Joe Musgrove. Could not be happier.
Yeah.
Very excited for him.
Congratulations.
We watched it together. We watched the ninth inning
We
together.
caught I didn't. We talked about how tough baseball is
Right.
with letting people know that cool stuff is going on.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, I heard about it like going into the. I heard about it when it was going into the eighth.
Yeah.
We got it on the TV by the time
It was top 9.
it was top 9.
But then I don't know if I told you this, but I got an alert from Bleacher Report afterwards that he had obviously thrown the no-hitter.
Right.
Which makes it even worse to me. It's like, oh, you're going to let me know after the fact? You could have just let me know while it was going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if things have changed because it used to be, I want to say, it'd be like, oh, so-and-so's got a no-hitter in the 6th. So-and-so's got a no-hitter in the 7th. Never got one of those. I think that was... It seemed, I remember Trevor Bauer talking about it, where it's like, whatever the deal that baseball has with these... I don't know everything that goes into it, but he was basically saying one of their biggest problems is that they do a terrible job of alerting people what's going on right now.
Right. Sorry, I know that makes noise.
No, it's okay. But his point was like, if Steph Curry hits a shot or somebody dunks it, it's like everyone has seen it within 5 minutes on their phones or like watching it. It's like, a no-hitter, how do you not want as many people watching
How
it
does
possible?
everybody not know?
But that's not the takeaway. Takeaway is obviously how awesome it was for Joe.
Yeah.
And while this sounds stupid, we talked about it a little bit. I know it's a no-hitter, but a really dominating no-hitter.
Right.
Which,
right.
all no-hitters are dominating to an extent, but some are different than others.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know if you saw, I did feel bad because I saw a clip of his hit batter, to keep it from a perfect. And it was like, he was just trying to come inside and like barely kind of got his like back leg type of thing. And like,
I was going to say, I thought Joe dropped a few gems in like the interviews after. One of them was when he was talking about hitting Gallo, and he goes, what does he say? He was like, I don't hit him there. He could have, you never know, he could have gotten a hit, right?
Yeah.
Which is like obviously the real thought is like it could have gone perfect,
Right.
And the way he was going that night sure could have,
Right.
But it relates to my new favorite saying, which is, if your aunt had a dick, she'd be your uncle. Right? Because I think I feel like that's my new most like my new
Instagram clip
favorite
right there.
my new favorite my new favorite profound saying.
Right.
Where just let's not even go into what could have happened.
Right.
What
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, from a baseball perspective, yeah, if you're gonna attack Joey Gallo with a fastball, you probably want to get it off the plate a little bit.
Yeah.
You'd rather miss in than miss over the plate.
He had a plan. He knew where he was going to miss if he was going to miss, and he missed. It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was awesome, obviously. And it was cool, obviously, two San Diego guys. I don't know if you were a Padres fan growing up. I went to a lot of Padres games. I don't know if I'd ever consider myself a Padres fan. But it's cool for the city of San Diego. And I know it was a big thing that the Padres were the only team that never had a no-hitter.
Yeah.
I almost saw the first one. We talked about this a little bit. Chris Young, I was at when he took it into the ninth. And I remember feeling like everyone in the stadium kind of knew, obviously, what was going on. And the fact that they were kind of I don't know if at the time they were the last one, but obviously had never had one. So, one, Padres getting the first no-hitter. Two, being a guy that is from San Diego.
You can't write it up any better than it played out.
Right. And I'm not gonna. I have no problem admitting we talked about this. I mean, that was always kind of my dream growing up, is I was gonna be the first Padres pitcher throwing a hitter. So I will say ultimately it's cool that I know the person, have spent a lot of time around the person, obviously. As many people like to say, couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Right.
Which I always think is funny when people bring that up in terms of an accomplishment.
Yeah, because they're never going to...
Right. Well, is the implication if they don't bring that up that this happened to a really shitty person?
Right.
You know, for all the MVPs and awards that people want, if they don't bring up how good their family is that implying that they have a terrible family? Is that...
Right.
Is that what the implication is?
Yeah. If anybody doesn't thank their support system, they just they have nobody who cares for them back home.
This could have happened to so many better people, but he's just the best.
But this is the guy. We got. No, it really. But it really couldn't. I mean, Joe really is an outstanding dude.
Yeah.
So it is awesome to see that, and like you said, understanding from our perspective, understanding how cool that is.
Right.
That he did it. Just throwing a no-hitter at that level, and then he did it with the Padres, and it's the first one. Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, we obviously are gonna have to get him on at some point. Talk about it.
We'll find a way.
We had so many things to talk about with him, though, that I feel like now the episode would just be talking about the no-hitter.
Maybe
we have to give it time anyway, so we can talk about the stuff we originally.
He's gonna. That's the the whole thing now is with once you do something good,
right?
The expectations get raised.
Right. Now that I know you can go an outing without giving up a hit, I'm expecting you to never give up a hit.
Right. He's gonna he goes CG Shuddy with 2 hits.
Yeah. It's not good enough. You're slacking.
So let's go back to when he threw the no-hitter. I imagine he's gonna be answering questions about it for a very long time.
Can I tell you? Maybe I'll ask him this when or if we talk to him. One of my problems I always have with the no-hitter questioning is when did you know that you could throw a no-hitter or something like that? I don't know. That question just always bothers me.
I have to imagine that as each hitter doesn't get a hit, that no one has gotten.
You're also aware if you haven't pitched out of the stretch in a long time. If you're a wind-up guy, see, I'm a starter that only pitches out of the stretch.
Yeah.
So, but someone that pitches out of the windup, if you haven't pitched out of the stretch.
What I will say is I imagine, and this is I have 2/3 of an inning in my career, but I imagine as a pitcher that there would be a moment when you all of a sudden you can see the end.
Yeah. So for me, again, I've never thrown a no hitter, but I was telling you the farthest I've ever taken one was into the 7th, and it was when I was in Mexico. And I will say, I'm not one to really look at the scoreboard during the game. I'm pretty locked in. It was more, the first realization was I haven't had anyone on base. And then we're in the 5th inning. Right. I only pitch out of the stretch, but I was I know I haven't pitched with anyone on base, since the game started. Yeah. And that's kind of when I was oh, wow, yeah, I haven't given up a hit. Yeah. And for me, I kind of noticed people were acting differently around me. Right. Which, someone who's not superstitious, I don't believe in that, Yeah. Someone's going to be oh, he's got a no-hitter. Oh, my God, you just ruined their no-hitter. Right. When Joe was throwing his no-hitter, all of his friends, everyone was texting each other. He's throwing a no-hitter. He's throwing a no-hitter. And he was still able to throw one. Right. So, I don't know if talking about it necessarily ruins your chances of throwing one. But, I noticed that people were, acting, differently around me in between innings. And I told you, I was it's a mentally exhausting thing. And there was I'm talking I did throw a no-hitter and I was in Mexico. But there was a certain bit of like after giving up the first hit, I was like, it was a sense of relief almost.
Right.
They're like, okay, now I can just focus on pitching.
Right.
And I remember it was a 2-out 0-2 count to the 9-hole hitter.
Oh man.
Yeah. And I don't remember if it was changeup or fastball, but it was a terribly executed pitch, just like right down the middle, basically. And you just like single over the shortstop's head. And I remember being like, yeah, it's not the way, to lose that type of thing.
We got no hit, Hermosillo. I was on the receiving end of a no hitter. That was tough.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
people are angry.
I've never seen one live. That is, we obviously have much different reactions to no hitters.
Right. I mean, I mean, obviously, pump for Joe. Right. Obviously.
That only means that you have something to
also, say. No, also, it is, there is a part of me that like it does kind of hurt to watch hitters.
Yeah.
Like it's the ones that have like the amazing plays in it, where like someone laces one and there's a diving play and a gap or something like that. Because usually
there's always at least one.
There's always at least one, right? I mean, like some have a couple.
Yeah.
Where Joe's not so much.
We didn't watch the whole game, but he had alluded to there was a line drive, I think, to right at some point. Yeah. And he made a good play.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, at least the parts that we saw, it was not. The guys were struggling.
Right.
And I get, from a hitter, there is a bit of like, damn, that must suck.
It's so funny how the two of us watch baseball games so differently. Like even I had a moment the other day on the team, the high school team that we both coach for, where we were up to bat and the pitcher just beautiful sequence and got like a strikeout, and I just had a reaction like, yes, like that was awesome. Yeah. And a couple of guys like, what? I'm like, oh, it's just a reaction. Like when I see good pitching, I just love to see a good pitching battle just beat a hitter, regardless if it's for me or against me.
Right. So. You just appreciate it.
Yeah.
I often have that, it might not be the right thing to say, but like first base, like when a guy hits one against our pitcher. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's a nice swing.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, getting back to the big league no hitter though, not our high school team, but no, I mean that was awesome. That was cool, and I'm glad that you told me about it and that we were able to watch it.
Right.
I would have been pissed. That would have sucked.
Yeah.
That was one of those I didn't even really think about it. But yeah, I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
I might have even deleted Bleacher Report for a little bit, not forever, but
it's their fault.
For not letting me know? Yeah, I think so.
I guess that's
your job.
Yeah.
Your whole business is predicated on alerts and letting people know what's going on in the sports world so you can watch it now.
Yeah.
I get alerts all the time. The two basketball teams are starting the second half now. Make sure to tune in. I'm like, I don't care about that game. But you alerted me. So you're not going to alert me about a no-hitter? That's a problem.
Yeah, first one for a franchise.
Yeah.
The last one that doesn't have a no hitter,
and a friend of mine.
Right.
You need to know that.
Yeah. There's so many times I've probably brought this up already on the show, but like there's been so many times where I'm just like, I know you're watching all my shit anyway.
Right.
Just help me out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
I know you've seen me. All the guys that I consider my friends and. I check in on how they're doing during the season and whatnot. Yeah. So my phone is constantly, creating memory based on those searches. Like, yeah, you would think that you'd be like, hey, this is some guy you've searched a lot and he's throwing a no-hitter. Right. Maybe you want to go check that out.
Yeah. Put that in.
Or maybe they're assuming you're already checking it out.
Put that in the damn algorithm.
Yeah. Okay.
I love saying algorithm now.
Yeah. It's a good word.
It's a great word.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a word to describe it, but I couldn't, so I was going to move off it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Pushing forward. Okay, so I got one. This goes back to a bet that was made on Friday.
Okay.
And I want to let you know that you're going to get your $20 regardless.
Right.
But before I pay you the $20, right. I need to like air my grievance out.
Okay, first I want to say it was one of those that I wasn't taking too seriously as a bet, so I actually wasn't going to make you pay me $20.
Right.
But I would love to hear how you don't think that you lost this bet.
Yeah.
Because this is as black and white as it gets.
Here's where this is look, I'm paying you the $20, which is an admission that I lost the bet.
Okay.
However, if it was a game, I feel like the game would be under protest. Here's what happened.
You would lose
for the people who that's fine. But the protest would be made. So for the people, obviously, which is everybody that isn't me and you.
There's only 2 people in the world that know about this bet.
For the people that don't know, we had a bet. No, okay, so Bennett had to go get his COVID vaccination. Right. I needed to run the practice until he made it. He was going to come straight from there. So the head coach gave Bennett the keys. Bennett was going to give me the keys. I was going to open the storage unit, which there's a whole nother thing about that. But
see, if I was a lawyer, I would say objection here.
What do you got?
Well, you said I was supposed to give you the keys, as if you're
this
saying...
This is the plan. I'm just outlining what the plan was. I know,
but I would say objection because you're leading the jury, you're leading the witness to believe something.
Okay. The head coach gave Bennett the keys. That much, can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. And all right, anyway, so basically the plan was for Bennett to give me the keys and for me to open the thing and start the practice. On the way to practice, I realized in my head that I had not gotten the keys from Bennett. And I was like, damn, like we're not gonna, so obviously I just operated under that assumption. We got to the field and I was like, sorry guys, we don't got the keys. We gotta wait until Bennett gets here to do anything with bases or, baseball equipment. And then when Bennett showed up, I keep saying Bennett. When you showed up, you're
explaining to the listeners.
Yeah. Okay. He explained to me that he had given me the keys, to which I replied, "You 100% didn't." To which we ended up betting on it.
Right.
And then what happened was they were in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I will start with this: if you handed me the keys, and I just, in the midst of everything that was going on, put them down and forgot about it, that's something that happens, whatever. I just 100% do not remember that.
Okay.
And what I assumed happened was that you had just left them in my car.
Okay.
And not told me or not actually handed me the keys.
Okay. Can I speak now?
Yes.
This is a constant problem in my life when it comes to dealing with people that I consider close.
Yeah.
In a situation where you go, you can't 100% remember what happened, and I can 100% remember what happened.
Yeah.
I think it could come off a little too strong, so I'm going to try to tiptoe around this a little bit. But I remember exactly what happened.
Okay.
And if you'd like, I can tell you.
Please.
So we were at El Camino High School.
Yeah.
The day before, on Thursday. This happened on Friday.
Game.
And we were talking about this plan. And the head coach gave me the keys.
Yeah.
I had explained to you I was going to have to give you the keys because I was going to have to go get my vaccine. We had a little joke about how recently you had lost your keys, a different set of keys. And I was like, probably shouldn't give you the keys, because you're not good with keys type of thing. And you go, no, I have a new keychain. I'll put it on my keychain. I go, okay, sounds good. We get done with the game. We get in the car. And because I'm a forward thinker, I go, here, D-Watch, here's the keys now. Mm-hmm. So I don't forget to give them to you. Yeah. You go, oh, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then you put it on the console. And I remember making a mental note of, I thought he said he was going to put it on his keychain.
Yeah.
And he just put it on the car.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, okay, he's going to forget to put it on his keychain. But the whole reason I gave it to him is that they just be in his car and he would realize that they're just there.
Yeah. Then that's what happened. Okay, so if that's what happened, then that's what happened.
Right.
Then I don't have an objection.
Okay.
I was gonna say if
I thought you were gonna say because you never actually put them on the keychain, it's like a wash.
No. I was gonna say if you had never actually handed to me and you had just put them on the center console and just left them there, I would have said the game's under protest.
Fair, but that's not what
happened. If that's not what happened, if you remember handing them to me, then I appreciate you. Then and I say that. That's often what I say.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, I was thinking of it as like a joke bet. So I
Right.
wasn't,
But it was one of those where it was like, yeah, I mean, I said it, so now I have to,
right.
just in case it wasn't a
Right.
joke.
Well, it was one of those where, a lot of people will be like, they say they're 100% sure, but they're really like 99% sure.
Yeah.
It was a true 100% because I knew exactly what had happened.
Right,
And I knew when I asked for your keys to go get the keys, and I knew where they were going to be because I remembered how everything went down.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like joking, like, oh, I'll bet you $1 million because I knew I was in the right. So I wasn't even thinking of it as a real bet, but yeah, I mean, I'm not in a position to turn down $20. So if you want to send it over, go for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, a bet's a bet in my mind. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
What I was gonna the next thing that I was gonna bring up was that game in El Camino where I made my first serious coaching, what I would call my first serious coaching blunder. Which it was a wild experience for me. I don't know
Which one was it?
that was where I sent the guys in, and our guy got picked off at second.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that being a blunder.
I don't mean necessarily like a blunder, like I could have made a better decision, and I felt like it cost the team.
Yeah, but that's where we go, process over results is.
Oh no! Look, like it's not like the same way if one of our players made say an aggressive.
Why don't you explain what happened? I realized.
So what happened? Yeah. So what happened is we had our we were down 1, runners on first and second. We had our 3-hole hitter last inning, top of the 7th, and I decided to go for the double steal, and pitcher inside move, 2 outs, 3-hole hitter lines out, game over. For context, our 4-hole is probably our hottest hitter at the time. Right. So you would think if we have a chance to get him up with tying run in scoring position, go ahead, run on base, you would go for that.
Right.
I don't want to get too deep into the whole decision making thing, but just how like I wanted to talk a little bit about how like I don't know, I hadn't felt that level of like disappointment in a while. Where I was like, it took me like I don't, we kind of go into this thing like obviously if we're gonna do a thing, we're gonna try to do it really well.
Right.
But at the same time, it's our first coaching gig, kind of fell into it, just kind of like whatever. Like for a pitch or two, I was devastated. I was like head down, like
right.
I could have just gone 0 for 4 with 4 Ks for if anybody was just watching, Yeah. It was just like, man, it was a tough time.
You know what's kind of funny about this is like, listen, you're ultimately the one that did it, and I don't want to tell you how to feel, but I kind of have a problem with, I wouldn't say a problem, but I would say ultimately the only reason why it was a bad decision was because of how you felt afterwards. So I'm like, if that was going to be how you felt, if it didn't work out, then I would have said, yeah, it's probably not the right call. We talk about making a decision. Can you live with the worst possible outcome?
Yeah. No, I'm maybe devastated is over. I wish that I wanted that to go well.
I had my first thought was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that, me personally.
Right.
Just given the situation of what was going on. But I also didn't have a problem with it.
No, I had a thought process going in.
I was like, oh, it's too bad that he chose that one to inside move on. Otherwise, also it should be noted, not throwing anyone under the bus, but ultimately it, regardless, was not a double steal because our runner on first did not get the sign.
We don't have to go.
I'm going to say whether he had stole third or not, it wouldn't have actually worked out the way we wanted it to work out.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So if that takes any of it off of you,
No, I mean, it's just.
Hold on.
The main thing that I want to speak to is how I don't know, how emotionally invested.
Right.
That that I found myself in, in a high school baseball game.
I mean, I think ultimately, we're scoreboard people, You put a scoreboard up, we become emotionally invested in it, regardless of what it is.
That's a good point.
Board game, ping pong, any type of sporting event. Once there's a scoreboard involved.
Any kind of competition.
I remember, and I always try to find little ways to bring up the 49ers, obviously, because I'm a 49ers fan.
Right.
But I remember the 49ers GM, John Lynch. I don't know if you remember John Lynch. He was a player. He had a really good job at being an analyst that he ended up leaving to be the GM for the 49ers, and they asked him why, and he basically brought up the point is I needed a scoreboard back in my life. Like I miss that feeling of like playing for a scoreboard, essentially. Like, yeah, it was fun talking football and watching football, but like ultimately, yeah, I didn't care who won at the end of the day. Whereas like I needed that back in my life.
Wow.
And that kind of spoke to me of like, I think athletes really understand that, is that ultimately when, and I'm in this kind of position now, if you retire from a sport and you stop playing your sport, is do I miss the sport? Sure. But even more than that, I just miss there being a scoreboard. I miss competing for something, and that you find that we both will go play pickup basketball at times, or I'll play tennis, or I'll play beach volleyball. I'll play something to get that feeling, because ultimately that's what I love the most. Yeah. And so it doesn't surprise me that both, because I feel the same way when I'm coaching too. It's like I didn't think I was going to care that much. It just kind of fell into the job, and then it's bases loaded, 2 outs, and my pitcher's up there just competing his ass off, and I'm fired up. You know? Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
But
my question though is that next game, so we have a game today actually. Next game, same situation. Are you putting the steel back on?
Same situation. Well,
same exact situation.
Same exact situation. No,
I don't like that.
No, but I'm saying that's
scared
where,
money don't make money.
No, of course, and I live by that. But I decided that I was. Like, what I was trying to avoid was the wrong thing to try to avoid, ultimately.
Well, let me ask you this. If it had worked out, would you put it back on today?
I would, if someone had asked me to analyze it as if it hadn't worked out, which I would hope as a good coach, I think that's a good practice, I guess, if something works out, is to look at it as if it didn't and see if that decision still makes sense.
Yeah. Had it worked out and we won the game.
Had we worked out and it won the game, I would still tell you that not stealing there would be the correct baseball play.
Okay.
The correct baseball player.
Because I agree with that. I'm just saying, if what you were thinking, I just don't like the thinking of if it works out, then I would keep doing it. If it doesn't, then I wouldn't do it.
And you want to, I think we both want to fight against that type of thinking as much as possible.
Right. Okay.
So I would want it to be that even if it had worked out, I would understand that that's not the right decision making.
Okay.
That's a good point.
All right. I just want to make that clear. All right. Coaching blunder. Is that all the stuff that... Can I actually say something we can get into? We've had private conversations about this, but speaking about high school baseball and talking about the last inning being the 7th inning, can I bring up my belief that I think Major League Baseball should change the game to 7 innings?
No.
I cannot bring that up? Well, I just did.
It's too late. You got it in there in the question.
It's in there. Can't edit it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that is, as the great dude once said, that's like your opinion, man.
Great movie. One of my all-time favorite movies. Not for the reason you think it is, but
you're not an asshole, Walter. Yeah. Or no, you're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole.
Right. I'm Walter apparently in this situation.
Of course. You're skinny. Right. You're skinny.
Nobody watches The Big Lebowski and wants to be Walter. Everyone wants to be the dude. Right. Or maybe like the cowboy.
Okay, but like realistically, right?
Or Jesus.
If you have to choose between those two characters for me and you, we're recasting.
That's fair.
The Big Lebowski.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. I'll allow that. Okay, so my opinion is there's a lot of talk about the game of baseball and making it more exciting, improving the game. Yeah. And they're Major League Baseball is doing a lot of things to try to do that. It started kind of with coming up with new ideas and testing out in the Atlantic League that we were both a part of.
Oh God, that was so much fun.
Rule changes and changes of the ball, changes of the mound. There's just so many things that are being talked about.
Yeah.
About how to make it more exciting. A lot of people like the game's too long, so they want to talk about the pace of play. And my theory has always been, I have two theories when it comes to what I would do. One, I think the season's too long. We've talked about that. We disagree on that. That's fine. Yeah. The other thing that I would do is I would change the game to 7 innings and not 9 innings. And I know what you're thinking. I'm crazy, right?
Right.
I'm supposed to be like a baseball purist, right?
Yeah.
I guess one of the arguments I'll make is that since we're already making changes to the game, I'd rather make just that one change and leave everything else in place. I don't like changing the actual game and the rules of the game.
Right.
You can't pick off this many times, or now you get this. If you want to make it more exciting, to me, a 7-inning game is more exciting than a 9-inning game. And at least I know this because for people that don't know, if you play in the minor leagues or indie ball, or I think was even the case in Mexico, if you ever play a doubleheader at a time, you always play 2 7-inning games and not 2 9-inning games. So even past high school, like at a high level, you're playing a 7-inning game at times. And to me, they're just so much more exciting. There's such more of a sense of urgency when it's a 7-inning game as opposed to a 9-inning game. You have a couple guys on the second or the third. It's different in a 7-inning game than a 9-inning game.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we get a couple right here. Like, we're in a really good spot. And if you're the other team, it's like, hey, we really have to make sure they don't score a lot here because we're not going to have as many chances to get it back.
Right. You take away some of that, like, hey, it's a long game.
Right.
Infield back with the runner on third in the first inning.
So it makes it more exciting.
I can see okay, it's a fair...
Well, that was one point.
Oh.
The other point, I actually heard someone, I won't claim it as mine, but I can't remember who brought it up on one of these talk shows I was watching, but I agree with it, is that especially also, I think, back in the day when we were growing up, it was popular for, ace of a staff to go deep into the ball game, pitch all 8, 9 innings. But since starters aren't really doing that anymore anyway, like, you're really not losing much. Like most of these starters are only going 5, 6 innings anyway. It's not like, because I had heard originally some people bring up, well, it wouldn't be.
But here's an interesting side of what you're talking about. Okay. And I'm not saying that it's a bad point.
Right.
Is that what happens now to major league rosters?
Yeah.
When,
there's one specific
when 7-inning games become a thing.
There's one specific group that gets screwed, and that's middle relievers.
Right.
And listen, in any rule change and anything like that, yes, somebody's going to lose. Obviously, if it was just a win-win for everyone, that this would have been done a long time ago. Right. Like obviously, somebody's got to lose in the end. And unfortunately, it's got to be middle relievers. And I know a lot of middle relievers who are not going to be happy, and when I bring this up, they're like, of course not. They don't like this. But I think ultimately, if you were to look at the game of baseball and be like, we can make it significantly better and people will love it more, we'll just lose middle relievers. I don't know how you don't take that.
Yeah,
we can make the game of basketball so much better.
You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
We can make the game of basketball so much better, but we got to, your 10th man can't be active for game day.
Yeah, I don't know if the middle reliever is your 10th man, but okay.
No, I'm just saying we're talking kind of far down the list here. If we're being honest, if we're talking about priority of how you build your team, no one's starting their team with middle relievers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's ultimately the last thing.
But I mean, as somebody who can appreciate, like how important each member of a pitching staff is.
You could
argue,
how
important is it for a team over the course of a season? And again, you talk about the length of the season, but in the course of a long season, as it stands, how important is the guy that can eat up innings?
No, it's not even eat up innings. Just how important a good bullpen is arguably the most important thing in baseball.
Yeah.
I understand that. Here, I'll equate it to something, and as I say it, I don't know how it's going to be taken because it's probably a little disrespectful. But it's the first thing that came to my head, so we're going to talk about it together.
Sweet.
Middle relievers are kind of like the kickers to me. Okay? Like, they're extremely important. You need to have good ones, Yeah. But if you were to make a rule change to football where it's like it took kicking out of the game, would people be that upset about it? Be like, yeah, we kind of just wanted to watch. We don't really want to watch them anyway.
Yeah.
You need to have a good one. And if you have a bad one, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
And we can all make fun of when they don't do their job, but like, if we got rid of them.
The only thing I will say to that, though, is with kickers seem so far removed from the rest of football.
Right.
To where, like, but when you're talking about middle relievers. But yes, as far as like the purpose they serve compared to some of the other player groups, yes, you have a point.
Thank you. And I go back to, I think, the entertainment value. I think one of the things we've talked about this before, of one of the problems that I have with the way baseball is played right now, is too many times it seems like in these games, our managers or just the way the game is going, are they avoiding like superstar matchups where it's like a top pitcher versus a top hitter? Top hitter comes up third time in the lineup, they bring in some specialist, reliever that no one's ever heard of before. And I don't want to downplay that guy's role, You know, I probably would have been one of those guys if I had ever made it. You know, I wasn't gonna. I'm just saying that probably I wasn't gonna be a front of the rotation starter.
I mean, I see you as a starting pitcher.
Okay. Well, no, I see that too, but I'm saying there's many people that are starting pitchers that get moved to the bullpen just out of necessity.
Right.
That's just how it works.
I'm just saying stylistically also, I don't see you as a lefty specialist.
Well, I appreciate it.
Anyway.
Well, I think I would have been a righty specialist, but it would have been backwards. But what was the point I was going to make? Oh, so what I'm saying is, so in a 7-inning game, you're more likely late in the game in the pressure situations against the best guys to have your best pitcher facing him. Yeah. You know? You're going to get the Trevor Bauers, the DeGroms in the 6th inning, which would be like the 8th inning, right? Like in the pressure situation against a Freddie Freeman or whoever it is, like, yeah, you're not taking him out because he's only got, 80-something pitches at this point, and he's still sharp, and like you'd still rather go with him. And it still, I think, puts a value on having a closer. I think most people will still go closer in the 7th, and they'll just save their pitcher from throwing that many innings. You only throw in 5, 6 max, and if you're cruising 7, also keep pitchers' innings down, pitch counts down, so they're fresh later in the season. It's another problem I think baseball has is come playoff time, a lot of these pitchers are gassed, and sometimes the guy that wins a Cy Young or the best pitcher because he's thrown over 200 innings now isn't as sharp come playoff time. I think it would solve that problem. I think to me, it's a no-brainer. They should do it, and I think most people would say I'm crazy for thinking that.
Yeah, I think you make good points. And honestly, as I haven't done as much thinking about it as you have, most of my response is simply I don't like it.
Yeah.
As a hitter, I think it's mainly just the difference of being a pitcher and a hitter, where I want a chance at 5 at bats every day. I don't, like that's why if you're playing both games, if you're playing both games of a doubleheader, it's not as bad. But like a lot of times, if you're just playing one of them, it sucks because you're just like, oh, I have a rough 2 at bats, and
puts more of an urgency on making sure you take advantage of your at bats.
Yeah, I like the length of baseball the way it is. I like the way I mean they talk about how many at bats it takes for a hitter's batting average to normalize, right? It's more than a season. Right. As it stands right now. So it's like, imagine trying to judge people on a season if it's now like say they go 7 innings, 100 games in the big leagues. Like, you're talking about 3 seasons before someone's batting average normalizes, and when you're talking about the implications that has on people's money. From a pitcher standpoint, it does a lot of great things for pitchers. I think hitters would suffer essentially.
Well, ultimately, you bring up a good point of the money aspect. Is that yes, people will be losing money, which is always tough when you're talking about this. But I would use your point you brought up to kind of prove my point of the problem I think baseball has is there's not enough sense of urgency. There is too much of like, he'll get them later, or like there'll be time for that to happen. And when you create that, I think people are like, yeah, so why do I need to watch now? Like this, he'll figure it out and it'll normalize in 6 months from now. Okay, then I'll watch in 6 months from now. Why do I need to watch the beginning of the season? Why do I need to watch, this game on a Tuesday? There'll be another game tomorrow. And you're saying none of this really matters right now. I think that's ultimately the problem baseball's having. That's the other reason why the second thing I would do is I would shorten the season. As I've always said, the main reason I think football became the #1 sport is because the sense of urgency it creates as a league. I think people bring up, the physicality of it and all that kind of stuff. I don't think the actual game of football so much is what sold people. I think it's the fact that every game matters significantly. And that, you can't just go on a 2-3 game losing streak in the NFL. Yeah. You put yourself in a really bad spot, where in baseball, you could go on a 10 game losing streak and still win 100 games.
Yeah. I think if baseball became more like football, I wouldn't like it as much.
Well, I'm not talking about a 16 game season.
I'm saying I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. Right. And it would probably make baseball more popular with fans overall if it did make some of the changes you're talking about. Right. I'm saying I just wouldn't like it as much.
What if baseball became more like basketball? It's like an 82 game season?
I don't see baseball like either of those two sports.
Oh, well, we could take last year because of the COVID reasons. Yeah. It was a 60 game season?
Right.
How'd you feel about that? they were still kind of playing every day. So part of my thing is that I don't think it should be on every day.
Yeah.
I think the problem is I don't think people, they almost don't want something that much. Right. I think when you give the public, when you talk about entertainment, something like every single day, I think people will be like, "Oh, I'll just catch it tomorrow."
Yeah,
or I'll catch it this weekend.
There's
no reason why I would do it now.
If I had any like say in any of this stuff, I would just say I don't really care what the public. This is why I'm not. This is why I'm not in charge of these things.
But I'm saying that's a valid reason to be like, listen, why are we punishing the fanatics of baseball that love the game now to try to get people that don't love the game now? Like, you're punishing me to try to get someone that's not a fan of baseball. I understand that point, and I think it's a valid point.
Okay. That is actually a better way of saying what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but I'm just saying you brought up an aspect of money, right? I could also make the same argument that if it continues the way it's going, people are going to lose money because the league is losing interest. Yeah. There's not much money to go around. Yeah. So my argument would be, any way you slice it, people are going to start losing money. Yeah. Not the Francisco Lindors of the world, but like, in general, if the revenues start going down, if the TV ratings start going down, if you don't start getting more people interested in it, you're going to start losing money anyway. Yeah. So ultimately, I come back to, if the way to make it better is that you lose middle relievers, and to me, it's you got to do it, and it pains me because I know a lot of middle relievers, and I'm sorry. Coaching's not as bad as. But
I'm also just from a hitting standpoint, it's just it's just gonna make it. I would imagine it would make it just in general tougher to hit. And then also, you're like, I think you start to devalue hitters.
So there was another thing we talked about. I'm pretty sure you hated also, that I brought up. I honestly can't remember if it was my idea or if I heard it somewhere else, but I remember hearing it and being like, this is crazy, but I kind of like it. And that's in the last inning of a baseball game, you can reset your lineup.
Yeah, I hate that.
Right.
Yeah. No, okay. Yeah, I hate that.
Can I explain really quick? Just kind of like people listening understand what I just said before you say you hate it.
Go ahead.
Is that in the last inning of a baseball game, if you're down, I want to say if you're down 3 runs or less, that you can reset your lineup going into the last inning. So you can essentially choose who hits in the last inning, no matter where you are in the lineup.
Right.
It would create, obviously, excitement going into that last inning that you're going to get the other team's best hitters coming up. Yeah. The idea being that baseball needed to create more excitement going on. And I admit, this idea I think is crazy. I think my idea of the 7-inning game and the shortened season is what they should do. I admit this idea is out there. It's crazy. I don't mind as much if you tell me I'm crazy for thinking this. But I kind of like it.
I mean, I don't like that. I don't know. It's.
You said you hate it.
I hate it, but not because there's a ton of people that if you're watching the Angels and Shohei and Trout just hit in the 7th, and it's a 2-run game in the 9th, and I don't know who guys on that team are that aren't as good as Shohei and Trout.
Everyone
and Pujols.
All the rest of
them, but like
and most of the league.
How's Rendon doing these days?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know.
Anyway, and you're saying, oh, I wish I could see the best. Yeah, but it's like, at what point, right? Do we just say enough is enough? Like at what point do we stand our ground and just say, stop fucking with the game? You know what I mean?
After we shorten it to 7 innings, go to a 80-game season.
I just. Yeah, that would be one where it's just I don't know what we're doing anymore.
Okay, and again, this is where it's tough for me, because I understand the argument of, I've always been a baseball fan. Why is my experience being ruined for somebody else, essentially? Yeah. But can you not agree that in a situation where, Shohei and Mike Trout, I don't know if they hit back to back. I don't know how the lineup shakes out. Yeah. But let's say they get out in the 7th, right? And they're down 2 runs, and you're going to the 9th. Yeah, and it's like, hey, if they can just get 2 guys on, then, Shohei and Trout can hit again. It's like, okay, I'd rather them just come up now. Like, I'd rather not have to get to that point where I need the 7, 8, 9 hitters to.
Yeah, but I don't. I just, because then you go, well, then how about we take it a step further and we just say, what if you pick 3 hitters to hit for the entire game?
You've brought that point up, and I do think it's different.
It
It's
is
a
different.
valid point to bring up, but I think it's different.
It's
than
like,
what we're
oh, but
talking
it's kind of just like like how much of that do you want in the game, right? Like, oh, like the ninth inning is now the bonus inning, and you can like
Yeah.
right. It's
I
like,
hear what you're saying. I gotta be
Yeah.
honest. I never like when people go like, at what point do we stop it or whatnot? Like, or just after we do this, like that could be
Right.
where we end it. Like after you do that, then that's
Yeah.
the end of it. And like, where does it end? It could end right where I said it was gonna end.
yeah.
And that could be that.
Yeah. I think there's two, like, on the other end,
Do you not think there's an excitement problem with baseball? There's a lack of excitement.
I think I don't know. I think you can change it to make it more exciting.
No, I'm asking you if you think they need to make changes to make it more exciting. Because they're
That's the
definitely
question. I mean, well, though, because it's what do you want to do, right? Like, so like for me, I don't have any interest in baseball making money, right? So
Right.
so in my mind, I say no. I'm fine with it the way it's played. I enjoy it the way it's played. I would like to see it continue the way it's played.
Right.
There are rule change, and obviously the game can evolve and always get better, and there's new ideas, and they should be examined and whatever. There was one I wanted to get to, we'll get to after this, that I actually do like, but I had a take on. But yeah, like I think at a certain point you do have to ask, like, are we doing it to make the game better, or are we doing it to draw in people that aren't interested? Because if you're changing
Could you
the
not argue
game,
that if you're drawing in people that aren't
if you're
interested, that's
changing the
making it
game,
better?
no, but like not always, because like because if there's people that just don't like that, that the pitcher has to throw a baseball to the hitter, they would prefer it just be a soft toss and the pitcher can just hit it, right? Like somebody somewhere would appreciate that more than the game as it is.
But would you not
But you
agree-
wouldn't want to change that,
Right, but would you not agree most people that say they don't like baseball, their reason for it is because they find it boring?
right? And that's fine.
Right.
Plenty of people say that about golf, and then later they
Right.
those people
I don't watch
end
golf.
end up liking golf.
I don't watch golf. If they came out with some new rules that made it more exciting to watch, I would probably start watching golf.
Yeah, that's true. If they were allowed, like if they could settle like any sort of dispute by like hitting each other with the golf clubs,
I'm tuning in.
yeah, more people would check it out.
I
But
guess-
people who like golf would be like, I don't.
No, the purists are always very upset with it. But I guess my point with baseball is that we have to acknowledge that regardless of how you or I feel about it, they are making changes to the game.
Right.
Or they are saying that there is a problem that they're trying to fix.
Yeah.
I guess my thing of where I started thinking about this stuff is that most of the stuff they were doing, I didn't like. So I'm like, so if you're going to do stuff in an attempt to make it more exciting, I'd rather you do stuff that are actually attacking why it's not exciting enough now. As opposed, nobody cares how many times someone picks over. That's not why someone is not watching a game.
I don't like that. So I just in general don't like the idea of making changes to make the game more exciting or watchable.
I don't like changes to make it faster, like a literal faster game.
I
don't
know,
think
but
that's the problem.
I think there's the replays, right, was a change.
I want to talk to you about that actually.
Okay, but I would say, and to be honest, right, like my initial reaction was the typical purist, don't mess with the game, human error is part of it, and I was in the wrong side of it, and it turns out that like if we can get some of these calls right, I do like it better. But that to me made the game just better, operate better.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily done to like, they were trying to do it to make the game exciting, but you could argue that it just made it better.
Okay.
But yeah, when you bring up like rule changes and the motivation behind doing it is to make it more exciting, make more people tune in. To me, that's the slippery slope.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing that's not a slippery slope. I totally understand why people don't want it to change. I understand you really like something, like, well, I don't want it to change. You know, I understand that. All right, let's get into the rule changes that you like.
Yeah, so but there's an interesting part to it. I like the runner on second in extra innings.
Oh, okay.
Right, starting with I like, and that's another one where it's like when you first heard it, you're like, ah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you play it with it a few times. You're like, yeah, these games tend to finish up a little quicker. It's instantly. There's something, there's something going on. There's decisions to be made. What I will say that I think is bullshit about it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding after seeing a few games this season, is that it's not the rule come playoff time.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't know that.
I believe, and
I knew that was the way last year. I thought the idea is anytime you implement a new rule into a league, it's that you do it for the regular season the first year, and like you don't.
Okay.
I was under the impression that now coming to this year.
Okay, so this is
but
another
I don't know
one.
if that is true.
Yeah, so if that is the case and they are doing it in the playoffs this year, never mind.
Right.
If they're saying they're not doing it in the playoffs, then yeah, I think it's bullshit.
I agree on that point. That it makes no sense to me. For the idea that you do something, there's a set of rules for the regular season, then the rules change for the playoffs doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I will say on that rule change, I think this is funny after what we just talked about for a long time, where yeah, my first reaction to it, and still the reaction is like I don't like it. And I think it's like that little bit of purist left in me where I'm like, that's not, maybe it's the pitcher in me. Like, you don't just award someone second base.
For getting out,
right?
yeah.
Getting on second base is difficult. Yeah. And it's my job to keep you from getting there.
Right.
So just allowing someone to start there bothers me. But I also understand that where the league could identify a problem and being like, yeah, these games going 18, 19 innings is a problem. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah.
So I understand that you don't want to have that.
But here's an extra part beyond nobody wants to watch it. What we can and just on the baseball side of it, what we can save teams from doing when we speed the game up, as far as like using your bullpen,
right?
And we get to these games where position players are pitching in a close game, right? We can avoid that.
What if instead of putting the runner on second, I know you're gonna hate this before I say it, when we get to extras, every inning in extras you can reset your lineup. So you're always having your best hitters come up.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
you're gonna have a better chance of scoring.
Yeah, no. Hey, everybody just go in the clubhouse until the inning's over.
You can hit around in an inning.
You know? Yeah. No. You're right. You're right. You can hit around in an inning. That's possible.
Right.
I just hate it. I just hate it.
I don't like it either. I love it.
There was there was one that I heard that was really funny, was like, instead of the runner on second, it should, and no outs, it should be bases loaded, 2 outs, 0-2 count.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that. I can get behind. I could honestly, the biggest problem I have with that is like starting with an 0-2 count. I think
no, it'd be brutal, but it'd be so funny to watch. I think like guys running on and off the field back and forth.
I think one of the problems I have with the starting the guy on second, or even in that situation like starting an 0-2 count, I have a problem with anything where you're diminishing like the strategy almost of the game. Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for, but like it's really difficult to get to that place.
You're right.
You know?
But I think
like the fact that you just award someone that.
But I feel like I understand what you're saying, but like I think it's kind of the opposite, where like, we're skipping the grind part of like getting a guy into scoring position. Right. The part where you just have to somebody just has to beat the reliever.
Here's my question.
And we're going straight to the strategic part of now, once you have a runner on second and nobody out, what are you going to do? Are you going to let the guy swing? Are you going to bunt him over? How are you going to play it? Like I said, like, more the decision making happens sooner.
Right. It puts a lot of pressure on the visiting team. No,
it just puts pressure on the game.
Well, it puts the pressure on who goes first, because if you don't score a run,
then the other team
has to start second. Yeah,
right.
So in a situation where this will never happen, well, I guess I can't say never, but in a situation where it is the bases loaded thing, because the runner on second it's the guy that made the last out, right? Correct. Would it be the same for the bases loaded, or would it
be like
three guys?
Well, it would be the last out, the guy before him. No, it would be the third guy from the last guy, right? It would be in order.
Okay. I didn't know if it was going like into the lineup, like your first 3 hitters.
Like if the 9-hole hitter, if the 9-hole hitter made the last out, the 7-hole would be on third.
Okay.
8, 9.
I guess I don't really like any of it, but I really don't like the 0-2 part.
No, I know. No, it was
Because like
that was more just like a
imagine if you were facing like Trout and you got to just start with an 0-2 count. It gets really hard to get 0-2 against Trout.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So like to not have to.
No, but the whole idea would be just basically it's who can execute a pitch.
We bring up Trout way too much on this show, and by we I mean me.
I think we both do. I think he's kind of the main name people speak to as like a dominant baseball player, even though there's plenty of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I will say for as clear as he's the best player in baseball, there are probably a handful of people that are like closer to him than we or a lot of people give him credit. Like if you were to start your team with someone and I was like, I would start with Trout, and you were like, actually I'd start with Mookie. I'd be like, I disagree, but I don't think you're crazy.
Right.
I'd be like, okay, just kind of a similar player.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go right if we're drafting a team. Right. Yeah, and you go, I got Trout. I'm not going.
Right.
No, well, I guess I got Mookie.
Or if I had the second pick and I wanted Trout, and you go, actually with the first pick I'm going Mookie instead of Trout.
Who else do you think is in the conversation between Mookie besides Mookie and?
Again, I don't watch as much as I did. I would have put for the last couple of years. I know he got hurt. I think last year I'd put Yelich in that conversation. I don't know how he's come back from injury, but for like that 2-year stint, it seemed like he was the best hitter in baseball. I know he doesn't provide as much defensive ability as them, so that's why he's probably not in the same conversation. Off the top of my head, I would have said like Lindor, because I think he's the best shortstop in baseball. Switch hitting shortstop. Yeah, I did see he didn't have quite as good of a year last year as I thought he did. He was obviously, paid handsomely by the Mets, and I think deserves it. And I still think he's the best shortstop in baseball, the whole package. So I would put him. Like if you said like I would start my team with him, just from a positional value standpoint, switch hitter, which I think matters now in today's game more because of so much of it is matchups. Yeah. The fact that you can never really get a matchup on him type of thing, like a good switch hitting hitter in the middle of your lineup.
Where do you got like say an Arenado or a Freddie Freeman?
You know how I feel about Arenado.
Oh, that's right. Okay, let me give you one that you've seen do well. I don't even know. Okay, first off, let me ask you if you think these two players are on the same tier.
Okay.
And then where you have them in the best in the game conversation. Okay. Freddie Freeman and Manny Machado.
Well, I mean, I think one's won an MVP and one hasn't. So obviously, I think you have to go one over the other one. I will say I'm a believer. Hold on, let me get this. I am a believer in positional value. Right. Like in terms of, building a team or whatnot. And as good as, so I would say hitter, like just pure lineup wise, yes, Freddie Freeman over Manny Machado. Freddie Freeman is one of the top players.
But a great defensive third baseman / shortstop versus a good
and first my understanding is Freddie Freeman's a great defensive first baseman. But it's like, that's not as valuable to me as a great shortstop or third baseman. Yeah. It's just not.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good point. Right. And as much as I appreciate a first baseman, right?
Right.
That is, but
where I would say your value also is enhanced is that you can play the outfield,
right?
So I'm saying that adds another element to it.
Like if we were talking about Bellinger versus Machado,
and we've had this conversation because you made a comment. I don't know if you were joking or if you were being serious about how you put your best athlete at first, and ultimately my point to it is. We'll look at Bellinger. And my point was the reason they moved him to center is because it didn't make any sense to have your best athlete at first.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's true, but I would say that it is. Yeah, you don't end up with your best athlete at first most of the time. I guess the point of me saying that is that like at lower levels of baseball, I think we have found that. It can be important to have a really good athlete at first. Yeah.
No, I think it's great to have a good athlete.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the idea
there's also like a especially because people they tend to move like Pujols and Miggy have like moved to first from third because they're better hitters than maybe they were defenders at a certain point in their career. So people go like, oh yeah, you just kind of throw anybody at first.
Right.
But I would say, for the most part, I think the athleticism that you want at first base is kind of underrated by most people.
I
that
don't disagree
really
with that
know
at all.
Yeah.
It can also make your infield. I remember, I don't know if this fits with just how athletic he necessarily was, but Mark Teixeira was considered the best defensive first baseman for a long time. And when he was traded, it was either when he went to the Angels or Yankees. I remember the thing is that they had one of the worst infield defenses in baseball, and like how much better their infield defense got with him being at first. Just statistically, because he saves a bunch of bad throws and stuff like that. Like just how much better little plays here or there, where if you have a first baseman that can make those plays for you, it is an extremely undervalued thing that's extremely important. Yeah. Getting back to the great players and tiers and whatnot, and someone like Freddie Freeman is, yes, I would put Freddie Freeman up there, but it's like, yeah, he's behind guys that play a position that's more valuable to me. Yeah. And another person I put I know he just got hurt, but someone like Tatis, where, I mean, he's still young, but a player like that is where I go, yeah, that's someone you would start your team around.
Right.
Because he brings so many different things to it.
Yeah. Poor Freddie Freeman.
No, he is an outstanding player. He's an
MVP
player.
Somewhere, I mean, obviously in like the, deep baseball communities, he's very well respected. Everybody knows who Freddie Freeman is.
I am not disrespecting Freddie.
No, nobody. I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying just like the level to which even me, even as I'm saying this, I haven't seen enough of Freddie Freeman to fully appreciate. I know basically numbers. Yeah. And I've seen clips of his swing. Right. But I don't feel like there's a lot of talk when we talk about the great hitters in baseball of Freddie Freeman, and he is 100% one of the great hitters in baseball.
If we had an expansion team where it's there was a draft and every team could protect one player and everyone else went to the draft, who do you think the Braves are protecting?
God, do you think it's not Freddie?
I think it's Acuna.
I think it has to be Acuna.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
So
it's crazy,
and I don't think it's disrespectful towards anyone. But that's
it's not.
But that's also that's just the smart play. Yeah. That it makes that it's more valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
Guy won an MVP. No,
yeah,
I know.
I mean, it's tough. But
yeah.
That's the way.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And some team that gets Freddie Freeman is going to be very happy that they got one of the best players in all of baseball.
Couldn't let Acuna go.
No, you can't.
Acuna.
I love that video of Harper saying that. Okay, so last thing I want to get to is you brought up when talking about rule changes, replay a little bit, and there was a couple plays in the past week in baseball as it came to replay. One was that still hurts me to this day. It was Marlins Mets to win the game. Conforto put his elbow out there,
throwing his elbow into the middle of the strike.
It was a strike, and the umpire went to ring him up,
right, and then realized it hit him. Yeah,
and so but that's, as much as that sucks and it's ridiculous. My biggest problem with that whole thing is you can't review it. It's not a reviewable play, and my thing is I don't understand if you're going to have replay. Why you make, and every league does it, so this isn't just baseball, but it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to have replay, every league makes certain things not reviewable, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's judgment, right? A quote unquote judgment call is not reviewable. Whereas the ball, right? Like if you're reviewing safe or out, you can say ball hits glove, foot's in the air, hasn't touched base. You can say objectively, right? And if it's too close,
I would say you can
close.
Still say that is somewhat. I didn't understand what you're saying, but I would still say there are plenty of people that watch replays and feel differently about replays.
Right,
so it is
but
still
I'm just,
somewhat of a judgment.
No, right, but I'm just saying there is a clear rule that if this happened, right? Whereas you would have to judge what you're trying to find, right? In the Conforto one is if there was intent. Right. If he simply turned and got hit, because you're allowed to do that in the big leagues. You don't have to try to get out of the way. But
it was a strike.
Right. And the idea is that the rule that stops a player from doing that, right, is that you cannot try to get hit.
So my thing is I don't even care. I guess my point is I don't even care if he's trying to get hit or not.
Yeah.
If it's in the strike zone.
Right.
And he doesn't hit it with his bat, it is still a strike.
Yeah.
What is stopping anyone from just kicking their leg out when a guy throws it right down the plate because they don't want to strike out and it hits him in the foot?
Yeah. The idea is that you would never, that the umpire on the field would never allow that to happen.
Right.
And he did, which makes it such an egregious thing.
I understand
But
what
I'm
you're
saying, like, yeah, like you can't.
I understand what you're saying about the judgment call, and I know that's the reason why. But it just seems to me like, I don't know. It almost feels offensive to me, like to fans and to everyone that's like, we're stupid, basically. It's like, I understand it's a judgment call, but we can all watch that and realize that that's not the right way to handle it.
Right.
And that they can't just go to the booth, talk to someone, and be like, yeah, one, you rang him up, so I don't even understand. You knew on the field. I don't understand what's the problem. And you can see clearly he's putting his elbow over the, obviously it was in the strike zone. I don't know how you can set up in the box where you have some part of you hanging over the strike zone.
Right.
But the fact that you can't just do that, and this goes across all sports, football, the thing with the pass interference, or basketball, like a guy fouled him, but then they check the who it went out on, and then they see it was a foul, but they can't change that because that part's not reviewable. Right. I'm like, if the idea of replay is to get the call right, so that after the game there's no like, oh, this team got screwed. I don't understand why you can't review everything.
I guess you just can't review every foul call, or you can't review every strike. If you were like, imagine a baseball game where they're constantly reviewing each call.
Well, it's not that you're reviewing this, and I think honestly it would have been different had the umpire not even done anything. I think the fact that the umpire can go in and be like, you're not reviewing this, you did call a strike.
Yeah, right.
So you're reviewing your own strike call, and you thought he got hit, and now seeing it again.
The part about him going to ring him up and is ridiculous.
Right.
And that's where it's like, I don't want it to sound like I'm disagreeing with that, because that is ridiculous.
Right.
I'm saying the review isn't the problem. The problem is that he. No, I think a terrible call.
No, it's
and I feel like they should be able to get together as a group and be like, hey man, you were gonna ring him up because that ball was in the zone and he stuck his arm out, so that's a strike.
Right.
You would hope that that's what would happen, but the whole thing is like, yeah, you can't use the review to see that, because that would be a precedent for then using the review to see if a ball was in the strike zone.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And one of the reasons is, so then after all these plays happen, and this is across sports, is that they always come out right after the game and be like, yeah, I fucked up. Like, that was wrong. Yeah. And I'm just saying, if you can do that, why can't you do that in the game, so it's not a team doesn't win for, a bullshit reason or whatnot. It's like the league comes out, they got that call wrong. It's like, why can't we do this during it and just get the call right? If I just go back to the idea behind the replay, is like you said, the reason when it first came out and people go like, oh, it's going to make the game so much longer. And it's like, you're right. But the idea is that we just want to get it right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We want there as best as possible. No, are we going to miss some calls sometimes? Sure. We want as best as possible at the end of the game, your only reaction is to what happened during the game between the players, essentially. Right. You don't want it to be, we won this game because of a bad call, and then after that bad call and the game's over, the ump is like, yeah, I messed it up. So like everyone's agreeing this was messed up, but we just can't do anything about it during the game. That doesn't make any sense.
There should be a common like a common sense.
I think that should be my job.
There should be just a guy
I sit in a booth
at every game that just goes, hold on.
Like, dude, I don't even know the rule, but nah, it's fucked up, man. Yeah. Send it back to first. Let's play the game the right way here.
Yeah, I think
that would be a great job for me.
I'd say there's the guy gets two every game where he just gets to press a button, everything stops, and this is what happens. Yeah. Like
no, it's not gonna go down this way.
No, don't talk to me about the rules. We're way past rules.
We're way past lawyers.
No,
I actually think I think you're joking, and I think it's the greatest idea ever.
Yeah.
And I want it, and I think I deserve it.
Right.
And I think I'm.
How about that? Do we have time to talk about the?
We have as much time as you want.
The guy, the umpire.
Hold on, we do, but I just want to finish the point I was making, because there was another one I want to talk about.
Okay.
There's another side of the replay that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. And
this happened, I want to say, either last night or the night before. It was Braves Phillies. I don't know if you saw this play, but there was a play at the plate. It was either the top of the ninth or in extras, or it was a tie game.
I saw, I think, a tweet about it.
Yeah. So it was a big play at the plate. Got called out. Again, it's a judgment call. I don't personally know anyone that's seen the replay that thinks he was safe, but he was called safe. One, the replay shows two things. It shows that he was out, and it shows that he never tagged home. So whether you even think he tagged him or not, he just never touched home.
But didn't they replay it and call him safe?
No, they called him safe on the field, replayed it, and said call stands.
Yeah.
Not definitive or
I
whatever
love when a call stands.
Right. So, but it brought up the other side of it that I hate about replay. And again, this is not to be a conspiracy theorist, or these are just what people's opinions on the matter is, and a lot of times, and trying to understand how some of these umpires work.
Yeah.
Is that the people that make the call in the replay booth are in the umpire realm, whether they were former umpires or they're all within the same group.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times what happens in these replays, what some people believe is that they don't want to make like the umpire that made the call look bad because he made a bad call. And that there was an idea that, no, he's in the right position, right? He wasn't out of position. He was on top of the plate and he'd made a call that he was safe. I don't want to make him feel bad. So
That
fine.
can't be it.
I think that does. I don't know if that happened on that play. I think that happens more. I think a lot of times in replays, that's what happens. It's like, no, if that was your call, we'll let it stand.
I would say in like the meetings, I feel like that happens.
Yeah.
The guys, let's get together and get this one right. I feel like that a lot. I feel like they get in there and the guy's like, what'd you see? And whoever made the call is like, no, dude, I got it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be like, I think you're an idiot.
I think you're not realizing. I don't know if this is true. It's just my opinion of what happens. And I think what happens a lot of times in, when we've played in leagues where there's no replay, but the umpires will get together and talk about a play.
Yeah.
I think what often happens is, what I've heard in talking to some of the umpires is like, they'll be like, one of the other guys will come in and say, hey, I think you might have been wrong here or something like that. And the guy made the call. It's like, no, I made the call. Like I'm confident. So they all go, okay, fine. Like we'll stick with it then.
Right.
Where it's like the goal I keep coming back to is to get it right.
Yeah.
The thing I don't understand about if that is the case, and again, this is just my opinion. I think it's a lot of people's opinion. If this is happening, is that nobody cares if you get it wrong.
Right.
Like if you fix it, this goes across life. Like nobody cares if you make a mistake. If you own up to it, apologize, and make it and fix it, nobody cares. Yeah. You make a bad call and then the replay comes, hey, I actually missed that one. Oh, okay, my bad. Sure. Like, yeah, he's out. Sorry, I missed it. Nobody cares. Where it becomes an issue is now the double down on it. The double down. And the next day, the league has to make a statement. The umpire union has to make a statement. Yeah, we messed up the call.
Yeah.
And you're the Braves. You're like, okay, well,
ultimately
that doesn't help us.
Ultimately, what you want to do is give the umpires the freedom to fuck up as many calls as they want in the moment.
Yes.
And then be able to go back and say, look, I made a judgment call and was wrong, and we went back and got it right. You would like that to be the case every time.
Yeah.
And what happens, and to that point, how often does one guy make a terrible call? Everybody gives him shit for it, and you see him tighten up,
right,
and then ruin the rest of the game,
right,
because he's chasing one call.
I had an umpire tell me, I can't remember at what level. I want to say it was pro ball. It might have been college. I don't know. But, in talking to some umpires as we do, that he had said that a home plate umpire, if he doesn't, on a check swing, if he doesn't go on his own to check the swing, like if he needs the catcher or the other dugout to be like, hey, check it, and then he checks it, the umpire will automatically just agree with whatever the home plate umpire said. Because he goes, I don't want to make him look bad.
Right.
He wasn't going to check it, and then they were like, hey, can you check the swing? And then he checks the swing, and they go, yeah, he swung.
Right.
So they go automatically, if he doesn't right away do it, they go, no swing.
Yeah.
And I remember that is bullshit to me.
Right.
That's not what your objective as an umpire is.
Yeah.
It's not to feel good. It's not. Nobody cares. You have a tough angle. Nobody cares.
There's nothing I think that is more frustrating because it makes zero sense.
Right.
Than like the pressure home plate umpires feel to get the check swing call right.
Right.
Like that is the last thing. And look, there's times where you don't have 4 umpires, so like the guy in the middle is the guy who would have the angle, and so now he doesn't have the angle, and he never says he went, even when there's that whole thing.
Right.
But for the most part, when you have somebody down there to check the check swing, as a hitter, it's one of the most frustrating things. Yeah. It's the closest I've gotten to like a legitimately getting thrown out.
Yeah.
where I've been thrown out for stupid stuff. When I get banged for a check swing for strike 3 by the guy behind the plate and I can't check.
Well, it's never made any sense to me, the whole check swing thing.
Yeah.
Is if the first umpire ever checked the swing to the first base or the third base umpire, that was admitting that you don't have the best angle for this.
Right.
And so the fact that it's kind of a flip a coin thing, it's like sometimes you think you can see it and sometimes you can't, just automatically just like, hey, this isn't my responsibility. I'm not even gonna focus on it. It's just automatically you always check.
Okay,
or you never check. But it just, to me, it's got to be one of the fact that it's like 50-50 is like, yeah, I don't understand.
And to your point, like a lot of umpires won't go against the guy who made the call, right? So it probably doesn't make any sense. But if that wasn't the case, what would be the perfect easiest solution is to let the batter check what if he's been called for it.
Right. The batter decides if you check it.
No, like if the umpire says yes he did, the batter should be able to point down to the guy and say, "Can you check that with him?"
Right. Okay. What I'm telling you is that it will never be overturned.
Correct.
But I'm saying the reason it will never be overturned is a problem to me. Because it shouldn't be about making each other feel good.
Yeah.
The amount of ego that goes into some of these umpires. And I understand, listen, everyone's got an ego. Nobody wants to be wrong. But I would think one of the characteristics you need as an umpire is, you don't care. All you care about is getting it right.
Right.
Whether that was on the first try or the second try, just get it right. Yeah. And nobody cares.
Yeah.
And the amount that it seems like some umpires go to stroke each other's egos. And this was one of those where it kind of felt like that. Where at least with some of the, these are well-informed baseball, writers or whatnot that are saying what they're kind of hearing is the reason it wasn't overturned is because the umpire that made the call was in a good position. Like if he had been out of position, they would have been like, hey, you just didn't get a good look at it. It's like, no, he's right on top of the plate and we don't want to like make him feel bad for.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right.
That would,
and again, this is allegedly. I don't know if that's what happened, but I'm saying a lot of times I hear when I'm watching games and that happens. It's like they're not going to overturn it because he was in a good position, and then he just made the call. They'll overturn it more when it's like,
and that is not how it should be done.
Correct. Correct.
It's nice. It's nice when we agree on stuff.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good place to end it.
It's a great place to end it.
We basically debated the entire episode, and now we come to an agreement.
Yeah.
So hopefully, thanks for listening to the episode. Follow along all the social media platforms. Give it to us. What are the social media platforms?
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Subscribe on YouTube. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, a like. It could be good or bad. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
We'll take any feedback.
Feedback is always much appreciated. Positive, constructive, or otherwise. Just let us know what you think.
Don't be afraid to send a message on Instagram. We have a new email. You can email us if you have a suggestion of a segment or something. You have an idea or something like that. We'd love to hear it. And if we like it, you could always become a part of the bus per se. And you got anything else?
No, I thought that was good.
All right, that's where we'll leave it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.